In an ethics course, we work a lot with moral claims. Moral claims are a little different from claims we make in science or math classes. They're more like the claims we would make in an art class, but they're different from that too. So this lecture looks at the question, what makes a moral claim a moral claim? A quick note. For the most part, this course uses the terms morality and ethics as synonyms. When we make a distinction between these two terms, I will make a note of that. First off, moral claims tend to be about moral issues. There are a number of topics that the Western tradition of ethics often addresses. What is the good life? What is a good society? How should our actions impact our relationship with ourselves, other people, the environment, and God? What are my ethical duties or obligations? What does justice require of us? Over the course of this school year, we'll be looking at topics related to these big issues in ethics. Moral claims express a person's belief about what they think someone should do or should not do, what they ought to do. So they are sometimes called ought claims. These are examples of ought claims. The government shouldn't do this kind of thing. You really should drive more safely. Children shouldn't have to drink contaminated water. You shouldn't treat me like that. We can distinguish ought claims from is claims. Is claims report our understanding of the way things are. We support is claims with facts and analysis. And if we think an is claim looks wrong, we look for better research. Ought claims, in contrast, talk about the way things should be. We support ought claims with facts and analysis and also with moral values. When we think an ought claim looks wrong, we engage in dialogue or debate about it. And unlike is claims, ought claims call for action. Ought claims are distinct from is claims, but ought claims often build on is claims, so they are related to each other. These examples show relationships between ought claims and is claims. Knowing gossip hurts people's feelings supports the claim, you shouldn't tell me about Kathy's business. Because alcohol lowers inhibitions and impairs judgments, it's wise to not do business after we've been drinking. Because a free press protects people from tyranny, it's wrong for governments to block the internet or censor social media apps. Is claims and ought claims, though distinct, are interrelated. Sometimes ought claims lead us to look for is claims. Our values inspire us to deepen our knowledge about a subject. Concern about hunger or for food security inspires a lot of research in agricultural science. Some people who study economics want to learn how to alleviate poverty, and research psychologists have studied how people develop racial bias. In addition, is claims can develop or extend our ought claims. As children learn empathy, they learn how not to hurt others' feelings. Climate science guides our efforts for environmental protection, and we rely on medical research to know how to improve our health. Moral claims are about human action. St. Thomas Aquinas was a 13th century philosopher and theologian who influenced Catholic moral tradition prominently. He said, "Moral action is human action." St. Thomas describes human action as free and reasonable. This narrows the kinds of topics we talk about in morality. Morality is about actions people can choose freely. Involuntary actions are considered morally neutral. So if we do something stupid while sleepwalking, we're not morally responsible for it. Sneezing is also involuntary. So if we sneeze while we're driving and it causes a car accident, that's sad, and it could even be a tragedy. But it's not a moral choice. And if someone coerces us to act, say they hold a gun to our heads and under threat of death, push us to do something horrible, Catholic tradition does not see this as a morally wrong action on our part. Okay, these are all somewhat unlikely scenarios, unless we drive our cars too fast. But one thing that's likely useful for all of us: emotions are also morally neutral. They emerge within us and in response to our situations, but they're not voluntary. So, they are also morally neutral. This is important because sometimes people feel bad about their emotions, and some people want others to feel bad about their emotions. Emotions are among those things that are neither right nor wrong. They simply are. How we respond to our emotions, that can go wrong. It can also go right. In addition, the word ought implies can. For an action to be morally responsible, it has to be something we can actually do. We might want to be able to help someone meet a particular need, maybe provide them with a large sum of money. But if we don't have the ability to do it, it is not a moral obligation for us to do so. We may be able to offer some other kind of support, but we're not morally obligated to meet that one specific need. We should expect moral claims to be limited to things people can actually choose to do. We can use this as a basis to critique the claims that other people make as well. And this is not just a thought experiment. For example, we see this in arguments about homosexuality. People do not choose their sexual orientation. It's something they discover about themselves. For this reason, it's not right to use a moral claim to blame people for being gay, lesbian, or bisexual. And sometimes we see commentators do that. In addition, moral actions are reasonable. This means a few things. Morally right actions make sense. We can use reasons to support them. St. Thomas also says that moral actions are guided by reason. This means moral actions are guided by a particular aspect of our human agency. Catholic tradition also sees human reason as one of the ways that human beings participate in God's work in the world. Catholics tend to believe that God works in and through people. When people do the right thing, they're seen as working with God and allowing God's work to happen in a relationship. When we look at moral claims, then, we can use reasonableness as another point for critique. We should expect moral claims to make sense, and people should be able to give reasons to support their claims. And for those who believe what St. Thomas believes, that God works through people in the world, moral claims sometimes make reference to religious beliefs. With this, we should think about how we plan to respond to religiously based moral arguments when we encounter them. Moral reasoning is practical reasoning. Catholic tradition holds that moral action is guided by reason. We should look more closely then at the kind of reason most Catholic thinkers are talking about. St. Thomas Aquinas, drawing from Aristotle, distinguishes speculative reason from practical reason. Speculative reasoning is theoretical and abstract. It's reasoning that seeks to be intelligent. Speculative reasoning is correct if it is coherent and logical. Practical reasoning, in contrast, guides our activities and is bound to a context. St. Thomas calls it reasoning about what to do. When practical reasoning is correct, it leads to human happiness and to the common good. But what is correct in one context may not be correct in another context. For example, if a person is a ballerina, a good diet will not be the same thing as a good diet for someone who is a sumo wrestler. We can look at some examples to help refine our understanding of the difference between speculative reason and practical reason. Here are some problems we solve using speculative reasoning. Okay, no calculators. What is the circumference of a circle with a 2-inch radius? Did you get about 12.56 inches? To solve this, we need to remember the circumference of a circle is pi multiplied by the diameter. Pi is about 3.14. The diameter is 2 times the radius, so 2 times 2 is 4, and 4 times pi is about 12.56 inches. Another problem. What is the value of y if y equals x squared minus 2x minus 3 and x equals 3? Did you get the answer 0? We get this one by plugging in 3 for x and solving the equation. Okay, one more example. John is a teacher. Teachers are smart. What can we deduce about John's intelligence? Did you get the answer John is smart? That would be the answer speculative reasoning leads to. But already, you're probably asking yourself some questions. John is a teacher. Does this mean that John has been hired to teach or that John is a successful teacher? We might also want to look at the meaning of the word smart. Does it mean intelligent, well-educated, cunning, able to pursue happiness? Some people conclude that teachers are kind of foolish. They have a lot of education, but they choose not to earn as much money as they could if they were to do something else. Other people would argue that we cannot put a price on the value of education, so they see teaching as a noble vocation. This one example can show us some of the limits of using speculative reasoning in ethics. The syllogism, John is a teacher, teachers are smart, so John is smart, makes sense. But it does not help us understand enough about our world to support a moral claim. In contrast, practical reasoning is embedded in a particular context and directed toward human happiness. This is an example of a problem we would solve with practical reasoning. Mom, can I sleep over at my friend's house tonight? Okay, now imagine you're the parent. You want to help your child and your family live a happy life. How do you answer this question? It kind of depends. How trustworthy is the child? How good has their judgment been lately? How trustworthy is the friend? Will the friend's parents be home? To answer this question, we need a lot more information, and even then, as parents, we could make the wrong call. Here's another situation. My boyfriend and I are dating, but we just graduated high school and we'll move away for college. Should we try a long-distance relationship? Again, there's a lot here we do not know. How is the relationship going? What are they looking for in the relationship? Are both of the high school grads on the same page here? We cannot answer the question well with a simple yes or no. It is a question we cannot really answer for someone else. We can help the two people here think about the choice they have to make, but this is a decision that they will need to make for themselves. Okay, one last problem for practical reasoning. My parents do not think it's a good idea to major in communications. Should I choose a major that they support? What would you want to know to be able to answer this question? What other questions come to mind for you? Some of the things I thought of. What are the students' professional goals? What kinds of majors would the parents support? Who is paying for college? And is the parents' financial support with tuition contingent upon their child's choice of major? For most thinkers in Catholic tradition, moral claims are practical reasoning claims. Because of this, they are contextual, fallible, which means prone to mistake, and subject to debate. When we are engaged in moral reasoning, a lot of factors are in play. Our knowledge is often limited, and errors are common. Even when reasonable people share the same information and hold the same values, they can disagree about what's best. But not all people share the same moral values, and not everyone bases their moral claims on practical reasoning. Because of this, morality is one of those things that people argue about. One last point for this lecture. Moral claims have three parts. When we make a moral claim, we're saying three things at the same time, even if we're not saying them explicitly. If our moral claim is coherent, all three parts are in our minds. We're making a claim that there's something right or wrong, the diagnosis. There's a way we should respond or something we should do about it, the prognosis. And then there's the basis or the reasoning and values we use to support our claim. In summary, moral claims tend to be about topics of ethical debate, like what is a good life and how should our actions impact our relationships. Moral claims call for action. They are ought claims. They are based on our understanding of the world. They build on is claims. We should limit moral claims to things that people can choose freely. We can expect moral claims to be supported with reasons. In Catholic tradition, most thinkers use practical reason to support moral claims. And practical reasoning depends on a lot of contingent factors. So moral claims are often limited in scope and frequently make mistakes. We should expect debate about moral claims, and our moral claims should be coherent. They should name what's right or wrong, say how we should respond to that, and offer reasons to support our claim.